December 2013. Good afternoon and welcome to KTN Weekend at 1. I'm Yvonne Okwara. Cabinet Secretary for Labour Kazungu Kambi has defended the NSSF Bill 2013, which proposes that all workers registered with the fund should contribute 6% of their gross earnings every month from the current monthly flat rate contribution of 200 shillings. And even with fears of the funds being misappropriated, as has been the case in the past, Kambi argued that the pension fund will be well managed and said those out to loot from the contributions would be charged.
Uganda has been charging about 16%, Rwanda I think 17%. And one thing I want you people to understand, these are your savings, this is your money, because we don't want a situation when now you are about to reach 50 years, you cannot, now you are wondering how you are going to travel back to your rural homes. So I'm just correcting this. So one, I've convinced the employer to pay 6% for you. 6% for you is a lot of money. It's your savings, so it's you who is going to save, it's not me. We want to see if those savings can be put into projects which have got big incomes. Then that profits can again be taken back to the owners, the contributors, the people, the savers. When I took over, NSSF used to collect 600 million. Today, NSSF are collecting 1.2 billion. So I always ask myself one simple question: where was this 600 million going all along?
The unending inter-ethnic and border conflicts among the pastoral communities in the Rift Valley is what leaders from the region are attributing to development stagnation in the region. Residents of counties of Baringo, Elgeyo Marakwet, West Pokot, Turkana, Samburu and Marsabit have been urged to put aside animosity among themselves and work for the betterment of their counties. Political leaders meeting in Eldoret under the Kerio Valley Development Authority say the region is rich in resources, but conflicts among the communities render the region rated among the poor in the country.
We are saying 50 years we were marginalized. Now, after these 50 years, we are marginalizing ourselves because we're the ones who are denying investors to come to our areas. I felt really, bad to hear that, Pokot's Turkana, 21st century. You Samburu Turkana, Samburu, Samburu Marsabit wenyewe.
Let's face it, and the Kenya government has refused to address that problem. I've told the president myself, I've told everybody, you can bring KDF to Turkana and West Pokot. I support them. We've done that so many times. But until you clarify the issue, the international and the boundaries, the county boundaries,
our options are limited. It must be deliberate. You must be willing as a politician to even sacrifice your votes for 2017 to have that peace and ensure we have development.
And let's stay with matters of insecurity in the North Rift region. Transport between Marsabit and Moyale town has been paralyzed for the second week. Only non-governmental organizations are being escorted to and from Marsabit and Sololo following clashes between the Gabra and Borana communities. The County Commissioner Isaiah Nakoru says the situation in Marsabit is calm. However, a spot check by reporters on the ground revealed that Marsabit town comes to a standstill at 5 p.m. because of the tension. According to the County Commissioner, 30 people have already been arrested and taken to court, and investigations are ongoing. Residents of the lakeside city of Kisumu are up in arms over rising insecurity in the city. A businessman of Asian origin was yesterday shot dead by unknown people, stealing an unknown amount of money from him. They say police patrols that were present a few months ago are no longer in existence, making the city prone to crime. In the last few weeks, several shops have been broken into and property stolen, while security agents have done nothing to contain the situation.
Watu wako wamejua wako na bunduki, jamaa kaingia kwa gari, bila ingia kwa gari hivi ya mmoja akatokea na bunduki, akachapa risasi moja, ikachapa kichwa. Huyu jamaa akaanguka chini. Wengine wakakimbia akaruka kwa pikipiki yenye ilikuwa karibu, wakaenda na pikipiki.
Vile nilisikia sauti kwanza nikafikiria ni tairi ya gari ilikuwa imelipuka. Kuangalia naona kama mwindi anaanguka chini. Na kuangalia kidogo naona jamaa anaweka bunduki hivi. Sasa kila mtu akaanza kukimbia helter skelter, unaona. Sasa kidogo tu mmoja wenye huyo mwindi alianguka chini, mmoja akaanza kuingiza mfuko kwa yani mkono kwa mfuko ya mwindi.
A 15-year-old girl has been rescued after undergoing female genital mutilation. Narok police also arrested her circumciser and her parents. The police are working on a tip-off by girls who are undergoing an alternative rite of passage. The clinical officer of Molijo Health Center, Michael Nkithayo, who treated the girl, said she had extensive cuts and said that cut destroyed some parts of her, some inner private parts, and they stitched her up and cleaned the wound, and which was covered in cow dung, which is traditionally used to stop the bleeding after circumcision. The girl has been taken to a rescue center as her parents are arraigned in court. She was rescued only meters away from an alternative rite of passage ceremony where 64 girls graduated without being circumcised. The organizers of the ritual, Tasaru director Agnes Parayo, says it took a lot to convince the girls that they will still find husbands and live normal lives.
Kazi ya kuhimiza wananchi sio rahisi, kwa sababu kumwambia mtu awache mila ambayo amezoea, alikuta wazazi wake wakifanya, ni lazima umuelimishe. Haitakuwa ni maneno ya kusema tu, itakuwa ni kuelimisha na kuwaelezea sababu ya wao kuacha.
Now, in a move to curb crime and insecurity, the Nairobi County government has launched a dog unit which will be in charge of manning the streets with professionally trained dogs. 10 of the dogs have already been deployed to various parts of the central business district.
Four non-suspicious-looking men are lined up for a role play. One of them will play the villain, and he's expected to plan an attack on one of his friends. On the other side, Rex, Sniper, Duke and their masters are preparing for a counter-attack before the villain strikes. They are then given a brief on their mission. The comrades know that the inspectors are watching over, and they are the ones to decide who among them has made it through the test. The exercise is too nerve-wracking that Sniper is unable to hold her bladder. She pulls out of the mission. The four men walk slowly towards Duke. He can tell that something is fishy with one of them, but he is unable to point out. He has failed. It is Rex's time. He knows that it is up to him to make his master proud. And with no time, he identifies the bad guy and chases him until the man is down. Rex has made his master proud and has passed the test. The Nairobi Dog Unit is expected to be launched this month to curb levels of insecurity and any cases of drug trafficking. As Big Brother watches over our every move within the streets of Nairobi, we shall also be brushing shoulders with some of the best trained dogs in the country.
We will have very friendly dogs, well socialized, able to walk within the street with the help of the best dog handlers that we have been able to train.
The dogs have heightened senses. They can listen to and see what human beings are unable to. Anyone intending to commit any form of crime is being warned that the dogs will not hesitate to attack.
They will be very unfriendly to the insecurity players. Now, as we do the patrols, we will be watching on the main streets where there is a lot of human traffic, just to keep an eye on the people who with the wrong intention.
The Nairobi County government is urging people to welcome the new move to curb crime. Ian Wafula, KTN.
Well, I'm sure many residents of Nairobi County will be seeing just how that will work in terms of curbing crime. Now, we continue to pay tribute to the late Nelson Mandela, and during his life, he visited Kenya at least 2 occasions. Now, on one of them, he described the trip as a life dream come true. Now, one school in Nakuru County is mourning the passing of Mandela for a very special reason. KTN's Central Rift reporter Kamche Menza has this special tribute from KABARAK.
A few months after he was released from prison term of 27 years, the late Nelson Mandela paid a visit to Kenya, where he was welcomed by the then President Daniel Arap Moi. The 1990 visit took him to KABARAK community, where he held a lecture at the Moi High School KABARAK. The community here still remembers vividly the visit by MADIBA and the words of wisdom that he passed on to them. This is the ground which is now known as the quadrangle, where the KABARAK community will always remember to have welcomed and listened keenly to the world's icon Nelson Mandela's speech, which they say was geared towards peace and education. 23 years down the line, KABARAK community boasts of having at one time interacted with one of the world's icon. It is on this podium where late Mandela sat together with Daniel Moi and addressed the students. Musa Kibalet, who was one of the teachers during Mandela's stopover, remembers how he mobilized the students as they stood in silence on this ground. He says the icon's speech touched on issues of peace and education.
And I remember the choir sang the South African anthem, and the late Mandela was really touched. He had to rise from each chair and actually raised up his fist throughout the song.
One of the things he told us, which stuck in my mind up to today, was the issue of the learning environment in Kenya, and particularly the learning environment at Moi High School KABARAK.
His speech was so much centered. He was talking about big things, about the issue of being an African, and the aspect of the privilege of being in Kenya.
They say Mandela's visit to the school will always be remembered, but more importantly, the words that he uttered that particular day.
If this man had such a humble beginning and such a rough time, did he one time really expect that he would be out and even be able to address the world and be a role model to so many of us?
Kamche Menza, KTN from Nakuru.
After his release from prison, the late Nelson Mandela spent a few months in his residence in Johannesburg, but he later abandoned the house after he could not contain the number of journalists and unexpected visitors who thronged his house uncontrollably. Mandela later moved to another house where there was ample security, and to see him, one had to get special clearance. Ashamwilu recently visited the abandoned house of Mandela. Take a look.
11 February 1990, Mandela was released from prison. After prison, Mandela stayed in this house for 11 days. Because he had no privacy, people could not let him rest. The media from all over the world was here. People from all angles will come here, sing revolutionary songs inside and outside the yard. So after 11 days, he moved to a bigger secured house where Winnie is now. Not far from here.
So what are these?
These are Mandela's quotations, which he quoted in Winnie's letter, which he quoted in a speech he wrote to the students of 1976. That speech was smuggled from prison. It came with Meg Maharaj, Mandela's colleague. It was read by Mandela's daughter at the cemetery when we went to bury some of the students who were shot by the police. That tree at the corner is a special tree to the family because all the children, the grandchildren, the great-grandchildren who were born here, their umbilical cords are buried under that tree. That's our African tradition. I think you know it.
Yeah, Mandela planted that tree himself?
Yeah, Mandela planted the tree himself. The blackness on the wall, it's when the house was petrol bombed twice. some of the patched bullet holes and the bricks that became loose, visible bullet holes under the glow. Okay, Mandela stayed in this house for 15 years before prison. This is his last picture before prison, first picture after prison. We had a wall here. This wall was built by Winnie to partition or to divide the living room from the kitchen and to protect the family from police attacks. And those are some of one of the dustbin lids that we used during the 1976 Soweto uprisings to shield bullets from the police. That's a replica of the old stoves which were used then, because the houses did not have electricity. This shot was taken 2009. Mandela, Winnie, the daughters, the three granddaughters, the great-granddaughter who was killed in a car accident when South Africa hosted the Soccer World Cup. This was the main bedroom, or the parents' bedroom as we used to call it. That's Winnie in the middle, the daughters on the sides. This bed, it's not Winnie's, it's not Mandela's. It belonged to one of these girls when they were young. It was brought here 2009 after the house was restored back to originality, whilst they are waiting for Mandela's original replica. If it comes, this one will go back to Winnie's house. The only remaining thing, that it's the cover that will remain on the bed. That's a special blanket, traditional from Kunu. The state of Michigan, it's when the Michigan legislature asked George W. Bush Sr. to apologize to Mandela on behalf of the CIA for helping the apartheid government to capture Mandela, but Bush did not apologize. This was the children's bedroom. Mandela was given this belt as a present by Sugar Ray Leonard because Mandela was a boxer himself before he went to prison. These are his military boots which he wore in different countries, Ethiopia, Tanzania. These were Winnie's military boots she wore in Namibia. Winnie in a military gear. This is the emblem of the ANC military wing. Konto is the spear of the nation in English. This portrait here, it was drawn by a lady from Kenya, Nairobi, 1990, when Mandela was released. Those loosening chains from prison, the shackles, the footprints, symbolize this long walk to freedom. The two Nobel Peace Prize winners who come from the same street, Bishop Desmond Tutu and Madiba, Fidel Castro, when he came to South Africa 1994, when South Africa was, when Mandela was sworn as the president of the country, 1994. Well, I think it's great, and it opened most of black people's minds after this. Moreover, after visiting these heritage sites, the Mandela Museum at Peterson.
We all know that he's a pivotal person in this time that we live in, and he's, as we said, sacrificed a lot, and we know, and it makes us feel proud.
He is the one who paved the way for our generation today, so that we are able to know each other better, unlike in the olden days where our parents were separated from white people, where they were brutalized, where they were killed, so he means a lot to us.